And with that, we are live on the air. Welcome in, everybody. It is Monday. Apologize for a couple of minutes late. We're working on a few tech issues, but no issues whatsoever. You guys always wait for us, so we appreciate that. I am the coach. This is the Coach and Bro Show. We are live every single Monday and Thursday, 2 times a week at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. If you don't catch us live, you can also catch us on demand anytime at our BTT Behind the Turnbuckle YouTube page that houses all of our shows coming out of our BTT studios. Coach and Bro, the last word will be live tonight on Stadium at 11 p.m. Eastern Time. And of course, our daily sports show, Coach and Company, every single day at 10 a.m. Eastern Time on Stadium. Now, I cannot do this show by myself. And this man, boy, does he have takes and opinions. And look at that. I do believe that you've shaped it up just a little bit.
No, not at
Nothing.
all. Not at all, Coach. I've not touched it in the new year. I have not touched it. No.
Oh, my goodness. He is from russosbrand.com, Vince Russo. We've got a lot of topics to get to, but first and foremost, we have a brand new partner. You can see them at the bottom of the right of the screen, shopmando.com. They're at shopmando on Twitter. And Vince, can you tell the good people, if you just want to get your toe in the water, just do a little starter pack. What is it all about?
Yeah, bro. It's all about, it says it right on the label. It's all about the package, bro. The package. It's all about, if you're a man, it's about your sweaty, smelly, disgusting package and making sure it is under control before the hey nanny natty session. And it gives you a various, you got the whole body deodorant, so you spray it on the package. Then you got the body wash, you wash the package. Then you got the whole body deodorant, you do the stick on the package. Then you got a double down with the whole body deodorant, Coach. Then you wipe the package with the wipes, man. And by the time it's time to do the hey nanny nanny, bro, you are smelling like a rose garden down there, Coach. All because of Mando, baby.
I love that they are trusting us. Again, it's shopmando.com. You can see it on the screen. Use the code EXPLODES, and you will save $5 on your starter pack. That's the equivalent of 40% off. I have all of mine, but it's in my bathroom because I'm in a hotel right now. I'm on the road doing golf because, as you know, Vince, we are everywhere. We do every single sport. So go to shopmando.com. Okay, also, how can the good people who are watching right now be a part of the show?
Yeah, guys, you want to be a part of this conversation? It's real simple, man. You're going to do it through donations or super stickers, and we will bring you right up on the screen. Bro, remember, the coach and I are working. This is our work. We are like punching in at the office. And basically, because of you, we are able to earn a living doing this. And we are very, 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 very thankful. But, Coach, you're in a hotel room. Man, I wish I was anywhere else yesterday but in front of my television set. Coach, with all due respect, the ugliest Super Bowl I'd ever seen in my entire life, Coach.
Well, as I was watching, and everybody knows I'm a huge Chiefs fan, born and raised in Kansas, absolutely. And anybody that says, "Oh, you still have three, you shouldn't be disappointed." Well, I would have been okay with losing a competitive game, but that was embarrassing, absolutely embarrassing. 24-0 at halftime, and I thought to myself, Vince, well, is there anything else about this game that would interest me? And then all of a sudden, my phone started dinging, ding, 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 pictures coming in from inside the Superdome. And what do you think those pictures were of, Mr. Russo?
Hold on, Cole. I'm backing up before we get to any pictures.
Okay.
Because there was something actually worse than the game. If that is all at all possible, there was something that was worse than the game itself.
Okay, what was that?
Bro, this freaking, I swear, I would have rather seen Lamar Odom perform during half. Bro, how has this dude sold one freaking record? Bro, this guy sucked. This was far and away the worst. And bro, I am so sick and tired of, oh, Vince, you're out of touch. Oh, Vince, you're not the demo. Oh, Vince, you're not the person that's, bro, this dude sucked. I don't care if I'm 164 years old. This dude sucked, bro. Bro, I right now, bro, if you play me a beat, I can talk to the beat, and I would be better than this freaking guy. And bro, not only that, coach, but to add insult to injury, we got to go through 6 more Jay-Z acts at halftime? Are you freaking kidding me, bro? With these clowns performing these halftime shows, and I'm supposed to care because he's dissing Drake's girlfriends like I give 2 craps, bro. Holy, he was worse than the Chiefs, coach.
You are well. You didn't have to take that jab. I mean, that was a
Sorry.
little personal
I
right there.
apologize. I'm
Okay,
sorry,
that's
coach.
okay.
Got carried away.
Um, there. First of all, the chat agrees with you. People on social media agreed with you. What they're trying to do, Vince, because I am in the know, because I am hip. I still have a ton of swag. Okay. They're trying to get the audience that watches the hip hop world, the 18 to 34. Now, Vince, let me ask you. I have a trivia question for you. Do you know the Grammys are the holy grail. When you have a Grammy, all of a sudden you can charge more, your tours are sold out. Can you tell me that last week on CBS or whatever network it was on, how many Grammys Kendrick Lamar won last week? Can you
Yeah.
tell me the number?
Yes, because I read up today, and this jabron, we call him a jabroni in the wrestling industry, coach. This jabron curtain jerker literally won 5 freaking Grammys. So that tells you all you need to know about music in 2025, man.
He swept the board. He literally swept the board
A
last week.
37-year-old man grabbing his package, and like literally it was the same song over and over and over again. Every single song sounded the exact
Sounds
same.
the same. Yeah. Well, at least we got to see Samuel L. Jackson. We got to see Serena Williams, tennis great, who, by the way, it was all like little petty digs at Drake. She used to date Drake back in the day. There was just a lot of that. So I think that a lot of people agree with you. They did not like the halftime show. And by the way, just so people know, the NFL does not pay Kendrick Lamar to do the halftime show. They pay the production cost, but he does not make any money because they assume that after you do the Super Bowl, that your tours are now going to be sold out and all that kind of stuff. It's a big deal to be able to do the Super Bowl halftime. So he doesn't get paid for that. And all that came, it is what it is. And I think a lot of people agree with you. Now, as they were watching Kendrick Lamar at halftime, there were a lot of celebrities that were in the Superdome yesterday. And Fox, maybe about 7 or 8 minutes in, they went around the Superdome. They had Kevin Costner, you had Paul Rudd, all these, but yet they didn't show the one person or the 2 people or the 3 people that were there down on field level. Vince, for the first time, maybe since all of this started coming out, Vincent Kennedy McMahon was in attendance. He looked to be in great shape. And the person who apparently never talks to him, his own son, Shane McMahon, also in attendance. And also a person who does a podcast, who still does live shows for the WWE, who is a WWE legend, who was just at WWE headquarters a week ago to surprise Triple H and being inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. The Undertaker, all at the game. I was shocked that the first public appearance that you're going to make is at the one show that's seen by more people than anyone around the world all year. Did it surprise you?
Well, yeah, it surprised me big time. And coach, I think the takeaway is some good and some bad. Here is the good. Thank God he looked to be okay, because we've all been worrying about his health, questioning his health. Does the guy have dementia? So thank God he looked okay, number one. Thank God he got rid of his Gomez Adams mustache, which was absolutely horrendous. Thank God. But here was the bad, coach. Bro, did this guy steal any of Janelle Grant's clothing? Because it looked like he was wearing a blouse of Janelle Grant. Bro, this dude
Van,
was
Van,
wearing he was
Vince.
wearing a woman's blouse. Coach,
Okay, let's say a
Vince
women's.
was
Let's not
wearing
use
a
her
woman's
name.
blouse.
Yes.
A
Okay.
woman's blouse, coach.
I think he was trying to show that he's been working out. That's what I think he was trying to do. The thing that shocked me the most was not necessarily his appearance, was the fact that, and last week it was announced on ESPN Plus that Stephanie McMahon will be having her own show where she goes around and hangs out with superstars. She's obviously married to Triple H. I have heard rumors that Shane, because of that announcement, would like to get back into the game. Remember a few months ago he met with Tony Khan and then nothing happened, nothing went
Right.
anywhere. Um, I have a feeling I know why. That maybe Shane is asking for more than what they were willing to give. But the fact that he would make this is a big deal, everybody that's watching right now, because right now Vince has been persona non grata. There is nobody doing business with Vince McMahon, and so for Shane to be there, it's his dad. I get it. It would suck if my son didn't want to hang out with me, but their history, Vince, and the fact that right now nobody will do business with Vince. I was a little shocked that if Shane wants to get back into the game, that he would be seen with his dad at the Super Bowl. Did that surprise you?
Yeah, that's an absolutely great point, Coach. As always, you make great points. Great points. But I think the one thing we really learned that if by I don't know, bro. I don't want to say miracle, but if Vince is cleared, we now see, man, he is healthy, ready,
Mm-hmm.
willing, and able to do business.
Well, and that's what he wants to do, Vince. It's been very clear that he's opening up. He wants to be an angel investor, and what's that mean? He cashed out a few months ago. It pissed off the executives at TKO because it lowered the stock price a lot. He's sitting on $4 or $5 billion right now, and
Yeah.
he wants to invest it. I believe he would love nothing more than to start a new wrestling company and compete against the WWE, compete against AEW. The biggest problem I see, Vince, is convincing people at a certain level that people would say, oh, yeah, I'm going to watch that or I'm going to pay attention to that. How many of those people could he get to sign up to do business with him? I think that will be a struggle for him.
Coach, I don't know. I don't know because my gosh, we're seeing perhaps the biggest star in the industry standing right there by his side supporting him. We know
Mm-hmm.
John Cena supports him. I'm sure, Brock Lesnar still supports him. Coach, when you have people like this still supporting him, I don't know if he's going to have a problem with people lining up to work for him again. I really don't.
I've been very public when asked about this because I'm in a rather unique situation. You're in a rather unique situation that we were very close to Vince, not just working for him, but right next to him in meetings with him. You wrote the show with him for several years. I was on his jet for multiple years. I was his assistant on camera as my character, his assistant for many years. And when you start to I don't know what's the word. I was loyal, probably too loyal. So when I see him last night, I see a guy that I remember at one point I would have run through a wall for, and then now you're like, how far they have fallen. The other part that I don't like in life is when you just cancel somebody and then they can't live their life or they can't go
Right.
out of their house or they can't be seen. That's a very now did he bring it up on himself? I guess so, but it's still alleged. It's still, they're still going through the court system. So I'm very conflicted with how I feel in my head when I address the subject of Vince McMahon. Are you at all?
Uh, I'm, man, Coach, I'm really not because,
Okay.
Coach, you and I both know the wrestling business is a work. Okay, you and I both worked for this man. I got to tell you, Coach, the more and more time goes on, I think people like you and I, who are good people, who are law abiding citizens, I think we were hoodwinked. Because, Coach, I'm telling you, I'm reading these alleged text messages, and I'm sure your response is the same. Like, who is this guy? Like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm reading that stuff, and coach, I'm saying, no, how, no way. And of course, it's all alleged, but is the defense really going to be putting forth text messages that are phony and made up? And I find that hard to imagine. So, coach, I have to be honest. I don't think you and I really knew the real guy.
That's kind of what I meant by conflicted. Is I'm conflicted with myself,
Yes.
meaning I was
Yes.
loyal to a guy that I thought was this and he
Yeah.
was this. That's
Yes.
so you're actually describing exactly how I feel.
Yes.
So I understand that Shane hanging out with him, maybe Shane hasn't been on a big platform for many, many, many years. And my gut is that with Tony Khan, he asked for the world and Tony Khan was not willing to give it to him. Now, the Undertaker part is, and I got pictures that were separated. I want to make it very clear. I do not know 100% if he was there with Vince. I have not got that confirmed yet. If he was, and I know he's been very Undertaker's one of those guys that will do what Undertaker wants to do. In his podcast, he says a lot of things. I like the fact that he's truthful and he's honest. And I've always, he was the godfather of the locker room. He was. It began and it ended with the Undertaker. If there was an issue, you go to the Undertaker, unquestioned leader. And so maybe he believes, hey, listen, I am late 50s. I've made my money. WWE is still paying him a ton of money, millions, in fact, to do his role. I wonder if he got a call, if he's there with Vince, from anybody at TKO, because you know how business people are. They overthink everything. And they're like, oh, if this happens, then B happens, then C happens. And I wonder if anybody at TKO or WWE or UFC had an issue if he did go with Vince of Taker hanging out with Vince McMahon.
Gosh, that's really interesting, coach, because, coach, we've got to go back to when all these allegations first came out.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, coach, almost immediately following that, John Cena went out to dinner with
Correct.
Vince.
Yep.
And bro, and Cena, obviously, Cena has much more of a reach than Taker because of Hollywood, and he's a movie star. So he has a much, much bigger audience than Taker. But yet, Cena put everything on the line and went out there in public and was seen with Vince. I don't know. Listen, nobody's going to tell the Undertaker what to do one way or another. I mean, whether you like it or not, they're not going to tell him, hey, man, we'd really rather not see you hanging around with Vince McMahon. So that's not going to happen anyway. But the whole thing to me, coach, just very, very, very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The timing of it all.
Yes.
Like you said, to make your first public appearance in front of how many thousand people were there last night?
Well, 80,000, but the TV audience or the social media audience, if I'm getting pictures from people that were there, those are going up on social media instantly. So I don't care about the TV audience. The social media audience is much bigger. Much bigger. So that had to be calculated. I will give Vince credit for this, that it would have been very easy for him at 79, almost 80 years of age, to stay in his multi-million dollar penthouse, work out at his private gym, sit on the $5 billion until his life was over. But we both know that's not how Vince is wired. That's not how Vince is made. That's not how Vince wants to go out, so to speak. So to me, the calculated part of this is I'm going to go test the waters at a big event when the president of the United States is there, when the biggest star in music, Taylor Swift, is also there, and a lot of big celebrities. And let's see how it goes. And I know I was doing my show earlier today. There hasn't been a big outcry that I've seen that the fact that he was there. So maybe it was a win. And maybe sometimes we overestimate how much people actually care about a certain subject as well.
Yeah. Well, coach, there's another way to look at this too, which is very, very, very interesting. We A couple of months ago, we got a glimpse of Vince. And
Mhm.
remember, he wasn't walking well. He needed help walking. And again, man, I know I'm kidding around, but bro, he had this ridiculous looking mustache and this dye job. He looked horrible. So, knowing that was out there, is this the opportunity for Vince to make the grand reappearance in front of the entire world? My surgery is behind me. I got rid of the Gomez Adams mustache and the very bad dye job. I am here. I am back. And the real Vince McMahon is front and center. Bro, we know that. We know the dude's got an ego. We know how much he must have hated those other photos leaking out, coach, where he looked frail and he looked like
Mhm.
a shadow of himself. This was definitely a different looking Vince McMahon, and Vince does not do anything if it's not by design.
And let's remember during the documentary on Netflix, they asked him if he would ever quit or ever, and he was like, no, until the day I die. Basically, I'm going to continue to be out there. That's how he feels. And it's had to destroy him to watch the biggest TV deal of all time or Netflix, whatever you're streaming, and watch his company grow financially, which he used to love. I was there for 3 of these big announcements, and he loved it, man. He walked around like a peacock, and he was like, man, I just got 200 million. Man, I just got 500 million. Now it's $5 billion. He was not a part of it. Now, speaking of $500 million, I've been seeing a lot, and somebody in the chat said it too. Tony Khan was there, and I don't know if you saw this, but him and his dad, they took their yacht and docked it in New Orleans, and it's worth $300 million. Now, Vince, Shane, and Taker, they had much better seats than Tony Khan had at the Super Bowl, and his dad's an owner of an NFL team. So I don't know how Vince got those tickets, but Tony Khan was posting pictures and he was way up top, not down below where those three were at. And I just thought, you know what, as much as we tease about Tony Khan, at the end of the day, Vince, I would let you, producer man, all my friends, everybody tease me for the rest of my life as I was living my ass on a $300 million yacht and my dad was worth $13 billion. That thing was one of the sickest things I've ever seen. Ever. Ever.
Oh yeah, and I looked up, when I saw the pictures, man. If anybody wants to, just Google it. What is on that yacht
Oh,
is
oh.
absolutely ridiculous, Coach.
If you can imagine it being on something, whether it's in a house, in a building, whatever, it's on that boat. It is on that boat. And a full staff, absolutely sick. Absolutely sick. All right, let's move on. This is the Coach and Bro Show. We are live every single Monday and Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. You can also catch us on demand on our BTT Behind the Turnbuckle YouTube page, or if you want the audio, it's always posted with our partners over at Believe. Our presenting sponsor, of course, is Mando. You can go to them, shopmando.com, or at shopmando on Twitter. Use the promo code EXPLODES and get $5 off your starter pack. And I promise you, you will continue to buy Mando because it makes your entire body, head to toe, not just where you think, but your head to toe smell like $1,000,000. There you see it on the bottom right hand of your screen. All right, so I feel like maybe we got worked a little bit, Vince. Last week after the Royal Rumble, word came out, reports, of course, from dirt sheets, that Drew McIntyre left the event pissed off, that somebody had gone into business for himself, and it came out that perhaps that person was L.A. Knight. So this week, what happened? Well, Drew McIntyre, after the trade window, by the way, which means that meant nothing, he got signed to SmackDown with his old buddy Nick Aldis. A nice little backstage skit. And now McIntyre's come over, and what do? This is something Vince used to do all the time. If you have a real life issue, put it into the show. You used to do that all the time.
Mhm.
And so him and LA Knight did a little thing. LA Knight threw in a little, hey, maybe I'll go into business for myself. Do you think we got worked on the whole thing?
Yeah, I do. I do because they've they've created stories like this before about Drew. And again, Coach, you and I talked about Drew right now has the bulletproof label where we can beat him, we can beat him, we can beat him, put a microphone in his hand the next day, and it's not going to matter. So that's what they're doing, man. They're beating him, they're beating him, they're beating him, but then they need to do something on the other side of that to keep you interested in Drew. And Coach, you and I both know, I mean, you knew him. I interviewed him. This is the nicest guy,
Oh, of all time.
that they're part.
Of all
This
time.
is a guy that has showed time and time again he will do business. This is a veteran in the locker room. He's not going to carry on like some indie worker in the back because somebody went into business for themselves. That to me just doesn't seem like Drew McIntyre, Coach.
If you have a true wrestling mind, by the way, shout out to my numbers guy Raphael back from the Super Bowl. Thank you very much, part of the BTT universe. If you have a wrestling mind and you're smart, and this is something that I try to take away good things from my relationship with Vince to use running my brands here or in any job that I have, and that is turn something into money, make it revenue generating. And if that story's out there, whether it's a work or whether it's true, Drew McIntyre is the type of guy who just signed a $5 million, or excuse me, 5 year deal that I'm sure is probably in that $3 to $5 million range, that he understands I've got to continue to be on TV. I can't have this big paycheck and not be on TV. So what do, Vince? Well, you lean into whatever the biggest storyline is about what you are doing right now. And if it's not going after the bloodline, if it's not doing this, this would be it. This also helps LA Knight because LA Knight's been complaining for a couple of years that they're not using him and he's a poor man's Rock. This gets him away from the Rock. And I'm sure they talked it out and said, listen, let's make money off of this. And that's exactly what you do.
I agree with you 100%, but again, Coach, let's see where they go with it.
Yep.
Because just based on the creator for the last couple of years, man, it's start and stop, start and stop. So I'm like, okay, guys, let's see where you go with this.
Okay. Now, speaking of making money, and here at the Coach and Bro Show, most of the time we talk about wrestling, but sometimes it's wrestling adjacent as well. And we know that tonight on Monday Night Raw, Logan Paul is advertised again in an elimination chamber match, and I believe he will win because I think in a contraption like that, he can do some crazy, crazy things coming up. So just for that reason, I would pick him to win. But both Paul brothers, Vince, are in the news. And you talk about making money and losing money. Jake Paul last Wednesday or Thursday, I was getting ready for my golf event, and I see breaking news in the middle of the night. He was going to fight Canelo Alvarez, arguably the biggest name in boxing. And it was going to be on Netflix after the deal he just did with Mike Tyson. And this would have really shocked the combat sports world because he's never fought a real fighter other than Mike Tyson, who was 60. And in the middle of the night, Turkey Ali Sheik, from where? The place where WWE and Vince called home and where all the big fights happen, Saudi Arabia made a phone call. And when you think about how long does a deal take to get done, remember this story. Middle of the night, by the morning, he had a 4-fight deal done with Canelo Alvarez. Jake Paul is pissed. Canelo will fight May 3rd, the date he was supposed to fight Jake Paul. And then the really big moneymaker, Terrence Crawford, in September, a fight we never thought we would see. Both guys will probably make Vince $30 to $60 million. But this is about Jake Paul as well. He's going to lose $30 to $60 million because everybody would have tuned in for that fight just to see what would have happened. Don't you agree?
Yeah, no, I definitely do agree. But, hey, listen, man, business is business. And the Saudis moved in and they made the deal happen. Mm-hmm. Hey, listen, man, Jake Paul's not hurting for money. and I'm sure, Coach, there's a measly $25 million payday hanging around for Jake Paul against somebody else, man.
There was some promotion, maybe a couple weeks ago, and this is what they do because they're both Logan Paul and Jake Paul are big YouTube stars. That's how they became stars.
Yep.
And they put out, it looked like a very professional poster that it was going to be brother versus brother, March 27th on whatever platform it is. And the platform, Vince, is very, very key because Netflix is paying a lot of money, obviously, to get WWE, to get the NFL, and it's not a pay-per-view platform, although you do have to pay for it. But I never thought that those brothers were going to fight each other because who's going to pay for that? We know they're not going to hit each other really, really hard. It might be like the Seth Rollins kind of punches. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know
Mammy Pammy.
exactly what you mean, and I cannot see like Netflix going down that road again after the Tyson fiasco.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
can't. My gosh, I mean, I can't imagine them making that same mistake twice in a row.
Now, if it was Canelo,
Hmm.
then I could understand that.
Right, I
Canelo
agree.
has been a boxer that the last several years has kind of bounced around to different promoters because he still believes he's a big pay-per-view draw. The entire business has changed, Vince, and Netflix is part of the reason for that. You remember it used to be the pay-per-view world. I spent every Friday, every 4 weeks drilling pay-per-views into everybody's head. Now we've got to change how we think about this kind of stuff. And whether it's the Zone pay-per-view, ESPN Plus pay-per-view, it's still out there. But Vince, you got to be convinced that these guys are going to sell pay-per-view if it's going to be on a pay-per-view platform, or then you go to Netflix and you got to
I
figure out
agree.
which one works.
Coach, I go back to closed circuit, man. I remember. I swear I can remember, and I believe it was 73. Coach, I'm not sure. I remember the first Ali Frazier, Madison Square Garden, man,
Wow.
closed circuit television. That's where WrestleMania began. And when you look at where that has gone over the years, man, it is absolutely incredible. I remember, Coach, after the first WrestleMania, you couldn't get results anywhere. Like the WrestleMania was on a Sunday.
Yep.
If you didn't go to closed circuit, you had to wait till the next televised show on WWE, and it usually wasn't until Saturday. So you literally WrestleMania happened. You had to wait 6 days to get the results.
But Vince, you're from the East Coast. Imagine where I came from, Kansas. We had 3 channels. This is a true story. I turned on the evening news. I was what, 8, 9 maybe? I turned on the evening news thinking they're going to tell me who won, Mr. T, Hulk Hogan, or Rowdy Roddy Piper and Mr.
Right.
Wonderful Paul Orndorff. And I get nothing. And I remember saying to my parents, what's going on here? Where are my
I know.
highlights?
Is
Where
that
are my
crazy?
highlights?
Is that crazy?
Now, listen, I got to tell you a story. And let me preface this with I don't know if this is true. But what I do know is true about the story, Vince, is Hulk Hogan told me the story to my face. Now, he could have been lying to me. Very possible. Here's what he told me about that day for WrestleMania 1. So it was in New York City, closed circuit around the country,
Mhm,
and it was Mr. T. Now, everybody knows that Vince McMahon he was still living in a trailer at the time,
mhm.
put everything he had in. It was all chips are into the middle of the table. And so Hogan, and the reason I believe this is because we've seen what he has done the last 30 or 40 years, and this is so on brand for him. He claimed, and we were like sitting around in the pre-tapes room, backstage at some random thing, and he was telling us about this, that he held Vince up for anywhere from 250 to $500,000 the day of the event, or they were not going to show up. An additional on top of what Vince was going to pay them anyway. Now, the event went off. So, if this is true, then Vince had to find an extra several $100,000 to give to Hogan and Mr. T that day. And living in New York, there's really kind of only one way you can do that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
do you think that's a true story?
Well, Coach, this is the same man that just said 11 billion people watched his. I mean, so Coach, we kind of got to take that with a grain of
That
salt.
that's
You know what I
that's
mean?
how I don't think it was
11
true.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it was true, no, because you're right when you say there's only one place Vince would have been able to get that money, and I don't even know if in that circumstance you can get the money that quickly.
I know.
I'm sure Coach has got to be sit downs. We gotta check the toilet in the back room to see if there's a gun attached to it. I'm sure there's a lot that goes into borrowing that kind of money. You know what I mean?
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
But I also I remember I've thought about this because this was many, many years ago. And I've thought about this story many times from both perspectives. And people talk about betting and being a gambler as always like gambling on games. That would have been the ultimate gamble because if you don't make the money that
Oh
he
God,
made
he's
and it
done.
was then we know what happens then
Yeah.
when you owe somebody $500,000
Yeah.
and their
The
name is not
old the
a
old
bank.
cement shoes. The old cement shoes, coach.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Coach, you know what I always said about holding people up? Because
yeah.
obviously during my time there was the infamous Double J story with holding Vince McMahon up.
Oh, sure.
You know what I have always said, coach, and this is where like the wrestlers just are not smart. I mean, coach, since the days of Jesse Ventura, we've been hearing about a union in professional wrestling. We've been hearing about a union. Jesse had everything going, and then Hulk stooged them off. Do you know how many times I've said, coach, could you imagine hours before a WrestleMania and the entire roster saying, none of us are going to perform tonight unless A, B, C, D, and E happens? They have so much power and so much stroke to make anything they want happen the day of a WrestleMania, and they don't even they don't even understand that. Can you imagine? None of us are going out there. None of us are performing until like that they get every single thing they want.
it would be an incredible story first and foremost. But you know this because wrestlers are paranoid and they're all like, "Where's my next check coming from?" That's how they think. Even if they're under contract for several years, the way they start out is you get booked in the indies show by show by show, and they're. I think wrestlers are the most paranoid group of people that
Oh
I've
yeah.
ever met in my life.
Yeah.
In my life,
Yeah.
because of that. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
That would be absolutely amazing. And I think now though with the because back in the day people don't understand Vince did not even deal with agents. Now,
Yeah.
Cena, Roman Reigns, almost all these guys have agents. Most of them do, have agents for their Hollywood work and their movies and TV shows. But the reason Vince didn't deal with agents back then is because he knew he had the power over the talent.
Right.
And he knew
Exactly.
they've told the talent, you know what? And I've seen some of Rock's interviews where he's like, Vince, I want this. And Vince said, well, come back. We'll talk about this. That he saved a ton of money by doing it that way and ruling by intimidation
Absolutely.
instead of being fair. In
Yes. Yeah.
in the world of TV, you like I haven't had an agent in a while because I know where I should be working. I can negotiate it myself. But I always did have an agent when I went to ESPN, all the different networks, because that's kind of what you do.
Yeah.
But now it's a little bit different, but I do agree with you. They would have a lot of power,
Coach, do
Vince.
you know there's an infamous story, and this is an absolutely true story, and I can't remember who the player was, but when the Oakland A's had their run in the early 70s and Charles Finley was the owner of the A's.
Mhm.
The A's were about to go into the World Series, and one of the most popular players on the team was not put on the World Series roster. And every A player, I'm talking from, Reggie to Catfish Hunter to Rudy to Sal Bando, all of the stars on the team said, we will not play one game in this World Series until you put him on the roster.
Wow, I never
And,
heard that.
and Finley had to put him on the roster or else they weren't going to play. And they
I
were
love that.
they were dead serious about it unless he put the player back on the roster.
Wow. I
Yeah,
love that too.
I did too.
That
I
is
love that. Love it.
dedication to your teammates. To me, I love team sports.
Yeah.
I really do. There's a lot of positives that I take out of my time in the WWE. We've talked about what we didn't like and the family stuff, but when it comes to performing events, I can tell you from a performance perspective, I loved collaborating, sitting around talking about writing promos. That's what I love the most. I mean, that's part of the reason you wanted to ultimately, when you started your career, why you wanted to go to the WWE. It's that fun, the creation. I
Right.
still enjoy creating. Like I've told you this many times off camera, I enjoy this show probably as much as anything that I get to do because it's creative, but also you stimulate my mind to make me think. And at this age, after all of these years, I need the mind
I'm with you,
stimulation,
coach.
you know?
Absolutely.
I absolutely
Absolutely.
love this.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Love this. All right. You are watching the Coach and Bro Show. By the way, if you want to be a part of it, you want to be heard, you can do that through a super sticker, and we will read it right from the jump or through a donation to the show. Also, shout out to our brand new sponsor this month, Mando at shopmando.com. Use that promo code EXPLODES and get $5 off your starter pack, which is the equivalent of 40% off. I have my starter pack. Vince has his starter pack. And I'm telling you, all kidding aside, I don't care how much they're paying us. I love this stuff. It smells freaking amazing. All right, another topic. And Vince, your head is going to explode on this one. Absolutely explode. So, I've always been a big MJF fan. I have said for months and years that when he can, he will be a gigantic WWE superstar. But for some reason, the last year or so, he's kind of fallen off a cliff. And a lot of his promos get very personal, and you're like, really kind of cringy almost. And so apparently now he's gotten into a Twitter beef with one of my favorite WWE referees of all time, Jimmy Corderas, who now has a podcast. Great dude, really smart wrestling mind. And MJF, once again, in his feud with Dustin Rhodes, brought up Cody Rhodes. And Jimmy said, why can't you be creative enough? I'm paraphrasing here, and insult Dustin, have that rivalry without always bringing up the biggest name from the WWE. And you see it on the screen right now. Do you agree or disagree with Jimmy Corderas that a huge star in AEW should not be constantly referring to a big star that's now in the WWE?
Coach, I got to tell you, first of all, Jimmy Corderas is a freaking sweetheart, man. One of the nicest people you will ever, soft
Ever.
spoken man, respectful, just such a great, great, great dude. However, coach, my rule of thumb was always this, but MJF didn't do it this way.
Okay.
So I'm kind of on Jimmy's side, but I kind of can see the other way too. Here's my rule of thumb, because you got to remember, Coach, it was on my dime that we drove a rocket launcher up to the back door at the WCW building.
One of the greatest scenes of all time, by the way.
Thank you. Coach, I am a firm believer in this. When you are in second place, you throw the kitchen sink at first place,
Okay.
because you want them to acknowledge you in any way, shape, or form. That's the thing. You want them to acknowledge you. If they acknowledge you publicly, better yet. However, if you're number one, then you don't, number two doesn't even exist. You never, ever, ever talk about the competition if you're number one. But number two, man, throw the kitchen sink at them. I've always believed that.
You know what? This is why I literally just said this 5 seconds ago on the show. This is why I like listening. And one of the best things you can do instead of just arguing, especially wrestling fans, hear me here. Listen to the person that you're talking to, because I was all set to say, yep, Jimmy's right. Yep. But when I think about it from that aspect, and you're the underdog and you're coming from the bottom up,
Mhm.
you've got to have people talking about you. You got to have
Mhm.
people, especially when they now have 4 shows to your 1 or 2, and you are the biggest name. And MJF, I still believe he has a gigantic upside. I I don't know what's happened, and I don't know if he's just been willing to do whatever. I'm a gigantic fan of his. And now that you put it that way, I think I've got to take a step back a little bit and and say you're probably right. You do
Yeah.
what you have to do. And right now, nothing else has worked. So maybe you try this.
Yeah. Coach, the whole idea of doing that assault on WCW, the whole idea was, if nothing else, we wanted to get people to say, oh my God, I can't believe they did that. I can't believe they just did that. Because now you tune in to see what they're going to do next. And that worked. So I am all for, man, going after that top dog, man. Take the gloves off and go for it, man.
Now I'm starting to think back to the rocket launcher thing that you did. I was there the night that Vince bought the WCW for $2 million. It's kind of how, back in the day UFC was only worth $2 million, and all the stuff he does, the invasion angle, and if it's done right, people at home, and this is why I severely disagree with people say, "Oh, coach, everybody knows it's a work." Oh, coach, because if it's done right, I was there and I was in the company and I knew that it was a work, and I still thought, is this real? Are these guys really going to get attacked because they came up to the back door of the hen house and tried to get in? And I knew that it was a work. And so to me, that's still the beauty. When I watch a movie, I go, oh, 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 oh. And if you can get creative enough, Vince, to do something like that or some of the other invasion angles, when WWE, if you watch the documentary, was starting to slip, and Eric Bischoff and them, they were in 83 weeks in number one, you were number two. So you did that stuff to get people talking, correct?
Coach, I don't know exactly what you mean about a work.
No,
That rocket launcher was a
no, no, no. I'm
100.
I'm saying that I already knew Vince had bought WCW. I knew that Shane
Oh, okay,
showing
I got it.
up.
I got it. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what
yeah.
I'm saying.
Because that, bro, that rocket launcher was 100% shoot. We had no idea what they were going to do. We had no idea.
Explain that. Explain
Oh
that.
no, bro. Bro. Here's the funniest thing, Coach. This is why you're blessed to work with the WWE, because as a writer, there is nothing they couldn't pull off. And Coach, I remember writing that script, and for shits and giggles, I write in the Generation X drives a rocket launcher up to the W. I write it as a joke. Kevin Dunn calls me the next day. Vince, we got your rocket launcher. I wrote it as a joke. So, bro, that whole scene, Coach, was a 100% shoot. And here's where Bischoff messed up, because we were trying to play out all the what ifs. Like, what if they open up the door and allow us in? And here's where Bischoff messed up. If they opened up the door and allowed us in, Coach, we were not allowed to film because we were in their building. They were allowed to film. So if we showed up, they could have shot whatever they wanted and used that footage. We couldn't have. We didn't have the right to it. So like, we were really hoping, oh my God, I hope he doesn't open that door, because they'll be able to take advantage of it from that point on. But how it turned out, bro, was somebody smartened Bischoff up that we were coming. And you know those big garage doors?
100%.
Bischoff ordered that they shut the door. If he would have left that door open, they had every right to film everything that we did.
That is one of the craziest stories that I had no clue about until this
Yeah.
very moment.
Yeah.
Until this very moment.
Yeah.
Boy, only in wrestling, which is why I say I loved 90% of my time in the W. That's crazy.
Crazy.
And we're talking about crazy wrestlers who, but also when you look at it from both sides, people need to understand we all have friends in both companies. And so if you left, and they had a lot of guys that had come from WWE that took really big money deals, but who knows if they would have gone to blows or come to, really fought at that. But that's one of the most iconic scenes in the history of wrestling.
Yeah.
Period. In the story.
Yeah. 100%
The other side,
unscripted. 100%.
the other, I don't know why this just popped into my head, but I think that you inspired a lot of other stunts like that. And I'll never forget. You may never have heard this, but they had a stunt, and it was on SmackDown. It was, SmackDown was taped on a Tuesday. When Stone Cold got hurt and he really couldn't wrestle anymore, they still wanted him as part of the show. So there was a show where they were going to have him in one of those things in the back, and there was a bus, and all the McMahons were in the ring, and all of a sudden Stone Cold would come up on the screen in a one of those machines where you drop a big wrecking ball or one of those things on top, and it was supposed to explode the bus. Vince, by the time it aired on Thursday, it was McMahon's in the ring. Oh no, there's Stone Cold. Boom, drop, bus explodes. What really happened was they tried it, I'm guessing, because I was there live, no less than 30 times to blow the bus up. It didn't work. And poor Vince, Shane, Stephanie in the ring, it was like, what do they say, a fart in church?
Yeah.
It was, the crowd's just berating them. This sucks. This stupid. And poor Stone Cold's out there at the wheel or at the controls, and they had to substitute a person who really knew how to do it,
Uh,
and then cut back to Stone Cold drop. It was an absolute shit show.
oh, he
Oh my
must
god.
have. Yeah, and he was such a perfectionist.
Yes.
He must have hated that. Hey,
Oh,
hey, coach. I don't know what the last topic is on your agenda. What was it?
this one.
Okay, cool. We got to throw this out there.
Okay, what are we throwing out there?
This blows my mind, coach. This blows my mind. There were 10 cuts over the weekend in the WWE.
Oh yeah, I saw them. Yes.
And coach, it's like every person they cut, when they made their debut on WWE television, coach, I sat there and said, this person's never going to get over. This
Mhm.
person's never going to get over. This person's never going to get over. And here we are months later, and all of those people are released. Coach, I do not understand the bringing the people into the what do they call that training center there?
The down there at NXT. Oh my gosh. They just moved it to Vegas, by the way. Um, oh my god.
The training center, whatever.
Yeah.
I cannot understand the process of signing those people in, bringing them in, spending a crap load of money training them, the time, the energy, the commitment, years of training them, then putting them on TV.
Mhm.
Then you realize they're never going to get over. Those people should never get signed in the first place. I don't understand this process. If we looked at, coach, how many people the WWE has let go from their system, we have wasted millions and millions and millions of dollars. I don't understand this, how they're choosing these people, training these people for years. Then we put them on TV and we find out they're never going to get over, rather than realizing that before you ever sign them. Coach, this is the one thing about wrestling that drives me crazy. Crazy. There's no accountability, coach. There is no accountability. When there has been so many, swings and misses at NXT, and nobody is held accountable for that, but yet it keeps happening over and over and over. Bro, I swear that drives me nuts, because that is clearly telling you someone is not doing their job. I mean, come on. If you're in professional sports, coach, you're in professional sports, okay?
Correct.
That's what you do.
Yep.
If scouts keep signing players that never amount to anything, they're gone. They're gone. How many people do we have to see go through that system, make it to the main stage, and then let go, and nobody's held responsible for it?
All right, so there's a couple things to unpack here. First of all, it's called the Performance Center. So thanks to the chat for it's the Performance Center is what
Performance
they
center.
have down
Thank
there.
you, coach.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you.
I just actually looked up the group of talent that you're talking about. The one that surprises me a little bit is Sonya Deville, but she's part of the worst named group in the history of
Oh,
named groups. So,
horrible, horrible.
so AOP's gone. Paul Ellering was their manager. He's gone. Cedric Alexander, part of 205. Blair Davenport, don't know who that is. Isla Dawn, sort of. Giovanni Vinci, the Good Brothers, Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, they've kind of come and gone a couple of different times. So, first and foremost, the chat agrees with you. I agree with you. And we've said it all the time. They don't have enough stars for the amount of programming that they have. But Vince, let me ask you a question. Maybe we'll play a game of one word. New game we're playing on Coaching Company. Whose idea is it for NXT? Who created NXT?
Well, when you say NXT, my mind immediately goes to Triple H.
It was his baby.
Right.
And when Vince was in charge, he almost refused to bring that talent up to the main roster because that was not his idea. Okay. So Triple H has made NXT his baby so much to the fact that they on pay-per-view weekends they will add an NXT show at a special event, whatever. Do you know who's running NXT now?
Yeah, his boy, Shawn Michaels.
Shawn Michaels, right? So, to your point that I've agreed with for months, that if TKO is looking for a way to get rid of him and they're all about the dollars and cents, that is a cash funnel outside going the other way because they're all about training. And then you're going to announce a new show called Evolve, which is not even stars, talent at the NXT level, Vince. So they're going to take it a step further. Who do you think idea was Evolve?
Triple H.
Triple H. So now he's pushed all of his chips into the middle of the table. And understand this, ladies and gentlemen watching right now, there are levels to this game. You can't become a star just because they call you a WWE superstar. And this is why when you go, oh, they dropped this person, you really got to step back and listen to what Vince just said. Is this person going to be missed? If Cody Rhodes walked out the door, yes, Cody Rhodes is going to be missed. He is a star. If no offense, Giovanni Vinci, uh, do you think we'll ever hear that name again? It's the harsh reality, Vince, of this business. And I've been saying it for years and years and years. There's a reason they put money behind me when I was there because people cared when I walked out. Whether you want to believe that or not, they did. This is a harsh reality, Vince, and you're absolutely
Coach,
right.
I'm going to steal a line from my good friend Dutch Mantel. Dutch Mantel always used to use the term "good little hand."
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of good little hands in wrestling. Coach, on major league teams, the big four: hockey, basketball, football, baseball. There's no good little hands, bro.
Nope.
There's no good little hands. Even if you're a utility player, you are a star. Even if you're the fifth starter, you are a star. You're not making the team because you fill a void and you're a good little hand. Bro, more than 50% of their roster are good little hands. It blows my mind, Coach. Nobody's held responsible for that.
Well, they're going to have to start because Vince, 5 months ago, and I brought this up here on Coach and Bro, and I don't know his name, but he's the COO of TKO, which controls the purse strings for WWE and UFC. And he said, we're cutting live events from 300 down to 200 a year. The lifeblood of WWE was always house shows. Part of the reason why the dollars didn't make sense in the WCW is because the stars would not do house shows. And there was when I started a normal sold out house show like Madison Square Garden, you're talking $500,000 to $1 million coming into the company. You multiply that out, that's millions and millions and millions of dollars every single month. They don't want to do house shows anymore. So if I'm one of these talent and I'm sitting around thinking that I have value, you better start pitching something for your character, because you don't have the ability to be a curtain jerker in West Palm Beach on Sunday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon before Raw on Monday night, because those shows simply do not exist anymore, and they're not going to exist. So I think we're going to see a lot more of this and a lot more of this,
Mhm.
and the
Mhm.
comparisons to
Mhm.
real sports teams are going to be absolutely valid.
Yeah, I agree with you, Coach, 100%. Because I mean, they trimmed 10, Coach. They could have trimmed 30 without batting an eye, man.
No question about it. I'm so glad you brought that up. I'm so glad you brought that up. Do I agree with cutting the house shows? Not as much as they are, because I believe that families are the lifeblood of the WWE, but also the harsh reality of the business in 2025. It's about selling to the masses as far as business and streaming and all that's a concern. It's not in their minds, TKO. It's not the house shows.
Right.
They don't care about that.
Yeah.
Netflix is not paying for house shows.
Yep.
Well done, sir. Well freaking done. All right, before we get out of here, tell the good people where they can find all of your stuff, sir.
Yeah, guys, if you've never listened to Russo's brand, you can go to my Patreon right now, patreon.com/ Russo TWC. Get a free week. You could sample us. I do different shows with different people every day. Patreon.com/ Russo TWC.
Somebody in the chat asked when I'm going to be on castrating the marks. I've never even been asked to be on castrating the marks. I'm a little offended, to be honest with you. Little
Coach,
offended.
your busy schedule. You're in a hotel room right now, Coach. How am I going to bookend another show on your schedule, Coach?
Oh, my man. I love you, buddy, so very much. Thank you to Mando on shopmando.com. We are live every single Monday and Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. You can catch us on demand at our BTT YouTube page anytime during the week. And if you want to catch the audio, you're driving around in your car, go to Believe. We have our audio there. But in the meantime, that's going to do it for us today. Have a great week. Enjoy Monday Night Raw. Do not forget the last word tonight, 11 p.m. Eastern Time. Me, Big Tommy C, Gabby. We are live on Stadium on all their platforms, Amazon Prime, YouTube TV, Direct TV, from 11 p.m. Eastern to 12 p.m. Eastern, breaking down everything that is Monday Night Raw and pro wrestling. For Vince Russo, for Producer Man, I am the coach. We'll see you Thursday right here on the only one, Coach and Bro Show.